Unfortunately, the person has to reach that lowest denominator where nothing's making that feeling go away. This is the moment where they don't feel like returning the texts. They don't feel like going to dinner and seeing the same people. They don't feel like watching the same television show any longer. The sports car, the wardrobe, none of that is making this feeling go away. This is a moment of reckoning for the soul. And this is really when you could actually see yourself through the eyes of someone else, because you don't feel like yourself anymore. And that's the moment where people begin to change. They can see how they've been thinking. They can notice how they've been acting. They could pay attention or become aware of how they've been feeling for the last 20 years. And that idea in neuroscience is called metacognition. That's the moment you're no longer the program. What we believe and what we've seen and what I think is a much better approach is being defined by a vision of the future. And if you understood that you could actually elevate your state without anyone or anything every single day and hold whatever that intention of your future is, and it takes a coherent brain to do that, and feel the emotion of your future before it happens. That is, you can't wait for your wealth to feel success. Or abundance. You can't wait for your new relationship to feel love. You can't wait for the mystical experience to feel awe, or your healing to feel whole or grateful. That's kind of the old model of reality of cause and effect, waiting for something out there to change, to take away this emptiness, this lack that I feel in here. If you teach people, then they could elevate their state, and we teach that model through meditation. And they can combine that clear intention with an elevated emotion and teach them how to make that heart of theirs more coherent. If they do that properly, then they'll live their life feeling like their future has already happened. Now, from that elevated state, instead of that self-limited state, they can become as conscious of that unconscious self as they could if they were at that limited state, and being defined by that vision of the future, getting up every day inspired by it, and not letting any person, any circumstance, anything in our life remove us from that vision. That would be a day well lived. So then most people they have that vision of the future, but they give up on that vision because in order for them to arrive at that vision, they have to do something. They have to think differently. They have to act differently. They have to feel differently. So much easier to make the same choice every single day. And the hardest part about change is not making the same choice as you did the day before. And the moment you decide to make a different choice, you're going to feel uncomfortable because you're stepping from the known into the unknown. So some people would rather cling to their self-pity than take a chance and possibility. They'd rather tell the story of their past instead of telling the story of their future. They'd rather believe in their past instead of believe in their future. It's so much more important, though, to romance your future instead of romance your past. And I think if people understood that they could actually arrive at it, I think many people have done this already in their life. I think everybody, at least once in their life, has done something great. And when they did something great, they just made up their mind. And they made a decision in that moment to do something or to change with such firm intention that the amplitude of energy in making that choice caused their body to respond to their mind. That the choice that they were making to change became a moment in time that they would never forget. And the stronger the emotion they felt in order to change, the more they remembered the choice. And we could say then that they're giving their body a taste of the future emotionally, and they're literally aligning to that destiny. We discovered that if you keep doing that every day, somehow you'll arrive at that destiny, and your biology will literally begin to change to look like you're living in a different life. I would say that living in stress is living in survival, and stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of homeostasis. Stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of balance. The stress response is what the body innately does to return itself back to balance. The problem is that if you keep turning on that fight or flight system, you keep turning on that emergency system, you'll actually cause people to stay out of balance, and that imbalance becomes the new balance, and they're headed for some type of disease, some type of breakdown. No organism can tolerate emergency mode for an extended period of time, and when you're in survival and that primitive system is switched on, it's really about the self. When you're in survival, you have to take care of yourself. So the emotions of anger, and hostility, and aggression and competition and frustration and resentment and envy and jealousy and insecurity and fear and anxiety and hopelessness and powerlessness and depression and pain and suffering, guilt and shame are all derived from the hormones of stress, and psychology calls them normal human states of consciousness. Those are altered states of consciousness. And when we're in that state, when we're living in survival, we experience separation. We divide in a lot of ways. And so there's biology that goes along with that, and the hormones of stress heighten the senses and cause us to become materialists. And now when we're in lack or separation, we force outcomes, we control outcomes, we fight for outcomes, we compete for outcomes, we manipulate outcomes. In a lot of ways, we turn into more of a primitive self. So hard to change that, especially when you don't have enough money, or you just lost your job, or you just ended a relationship, or your best friend passed. It's really hard to move beyond those emotional states. Teaching people how to change those emotional states and move out of those are really important. And 75 to 90% of every person that goes to a healthcare facility in the Western world goes in because of psychological or emotional stress. That's 8 or 9 out of 10. And emotional stress and psychological stress are the ones that tend to be the most harmful. Because if it's not T-Rex that's chasing you, but it's your coworker in the next cubicle, what was once very adaptive becomes very maladaptive. And the rush of those adrenal hormones become kind of addictive to people. And they use the problems, they use the conditions in their life to reaffirm their addiction to that emotion. They need their enemy. They need the bad relationship. They need the bad job in order to feel. And that's why it's hard to change. And people become addicted to the life they don't even like. And so if you can turn on the stress response just by thought alone, by thinking about your problems, then that's the truth. You can become addicted to your own thoughts. And if the long-term effects of the hormones of stress push the genetic buttons that create disease, your thoughts can make you sick. So then, teaching people then a little bit about how to manage their emotional state and to self-regulate, I think is a great gift for people, because when they begin to break an addiction to any emotion or the conditioning of any emotion, there's going to be cravings that go on just like any addict there, and many people overdose and many people have bad trips. And so when they start changing and the body's craving those familiar emotions, the body starts signaling the brain, of memories, or to think certain ways and to make certain choices, do certain things, crave certain experiences just to feel that same emotion. And people say, well, this feels right. No, that feels familiar. That really feels familiar. And many people will tell the story of why they feel that way based on some past experience. And it's usually not in the recent past, it's usually many years ago. When we study belief and the change in belief, even the first level is that in order for a person to change a belief or a perception about themselves and their life, the majority of those people made a decision with such firm intention that the amplitude of that decision carried a level of energy that was greater than the hardwired programs in their brain and the emotional conditioning in their body. And as I said earlier, their body literally responded to their mind. The choice that they were making became a moment in time they would never forget. They'll tell you where they were, what time of day it was, who they were with when they made up their mind to change. It became a long-term memory. And the stronger the emotion we feel, the more altered we are inside of us, the more we remember that choice. The moment you felt that emotion, you were aligning to a new future, and to change is to be greater than your body, to be greater than your environment, and to be greater than time. And so when a person comes out of the resting state, because your body is trillions of cells, 70 trillion cells, and they're all spying on your brain. And if you were sitting there and you said, 9 out of 10 times, I'm going to fake standing up. One time, I'm actually going to stand up. Before you ever made that conscious decision, your body is so precognitive, it already knows when you're going to stand up, because it's got to release a certain amount of adrenaline, so the same volume of your blood goes to your brain. So if you're sitting on the couch with a remote control, and you got your cell phone here, and your iPad here, and your computer here, and your dog here, and your beer here, and a big TV there, and you're eating your popcorn, and you say, I think I'm going to change tomorrow. What do you think your precognitive body's going to say? Relax. He's lying again. He's not willing to signal the body it's time to ride. There's no signal to the body. So making that choice to change your state of being with a clear intention and elevated emotion actually changes your state to believe in that future more than you believe in your past. Keep it up. Keep doing it. That's a big explosion in the field. That's important. It's a change in energy. And nobody changes until they change their energy. And when they change their energy, they change their life. So then you make up your mind to do that, and all of a sudden, you have that synchronicity. You have that serendipity, you have that coincidence, and all of a sudden you're saying, hey, that worked. Something I did inside of me produced an effect outside of me. I'm going to pay attention to what I did. I'm going to do it again. Let's try it again. Let's the experiment continue. You do it again, and then you say, well, when did I stop disbelieving? Oh my God, I stopped disbelieving when I ran into that person. We had that conversation, and oh my God, I returned back to my old belief again. Okay, next time that happens, this is what I'll do. And you rehearse it in. So your evolution in your belief in self, it changes as well. So then, so many people, second point, will actually say this. I read the philosophy, I understand the knowledge, I understand what it means to change, I understand the power of meditation. I saw the testimonials, I saw people heal. I believe it's the truth. I just didn't believe it could work for me. This is a big moment. This is a moment where you step out of the bleachers and you got to get on the playing field. That's the person who says, if this works, and I believe it works, I got to prove it to myself. I got to actually prove it to myself that I believe that it could work for me. Some of them show up every day for a year and never miss their work, never miss their meditation. A whole year in changing from the old self to the new self. They were doing their meditations to change, not to heal. They were doing their meditations to change, and when they changed, they healed. They did their meditations sometimes 3 times a day because they stopped believing. They start disbelieving, and they were like, I defaulted. Why? Because I'm feeling the emotion of my past. Some stray thought, some response to someone or something caused me to feel it, and I forgot. I'm back to the emotion that's familiar, and I can't believe in that future. I'm believing in my past. Let me sit down and change my state of being again and get up believing in my future again. And sometimes they had to do it 3 times in one day. And when they understood that's the environment that signals the gene, that's epigenetics, and the end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion, and it is, you could actually signal genes ahead of the environment by changing your emotional state. They were doing it with that intention. And when you assign meaning to the act, you get a greater outcome, and you turn on the prefrontal cortex, and now your biology literally begins to change. And we have data that suggests by just having the intention to make certain genes, to make certain proteins, or signal certain genes and make certain proteins. Just having the intention literally begins to cause the body to make those chemicals.